use their information about ecology to help them manage their farms?
Okay. So most farmers use honeybees to help with pollination. Most of it is like if you have vegetable crops. Vegetable crops, certain crops are more important for pollination than others. In Simpson, we don't necessarily need bees as much for pollination on those crops as we do vegetable crops like tomatoes, squash, cucumbers. A lot of the vegetable crops require pollination from honeybees.
Okay, what benefits do bees provide for crops?
Well, the bees, like for strawberries, the more often a bee visits the blossom on a strawberry can often impact the size of the fruit. So sometimes when you get bigger strawberries, you have more pollination for bees. But if you didn't have bees visiting like strawberries and cucumbers and things like that, you wouldn't have those type of crops. So that's why it's so important for bees is for pollination.
Okay.
And then everybody likes the honey as well.
Okay. If you didn't raise bees, would bees still come to your farm?
Yes, they would still come to our farm. There's probably some natural beehives that are in the woods. And a lot of times they'll come in from the wooded area around. Sometimes they'll come in from neighbors. So they often come from a lot of different spots. So there's other beehives that are natural beehives that come in.
Okay. Do you plant special crops the bees like to visit more than others?
Well, for me on my farm, I do. We raise the pumpkins, and they really like coming and seeing the pumpkins. But most of your bees like to, a lot of your weeds that have anything that has a flower or a bloom on it, bees like to visit. But for me, I have the bees to help the pollination of the pumpkins.
Do bees have any natural enemies?
They do. They've got, there's something called varroa mite. A varroa mite it's a real small insect. It's a mite, so it's really, really small. And they often attack the bees while they're in the larva stage in the beehive. And they sometimes will feed on the bee in that small stage and sometimes clip its wings and hurt the bees. So that's one. And then there's birds will eat them. So there's other things that will attack the bees at times. But for the most part, varroa mites is one of the worst enemies.
Okay. What about harmful insects?
What about harmful insects? Are there harmful insects that attack bees?
Crops.
Crops, I mean.
That attack crops? Are there harmful insects that attack crops? Yeah, there's a lot of different insects that attack crops. You've got worms and beetles. Worms and beetles will attack crops. And a lot of times that's why when farmers often have to spray their crops for the bad insects, why you gotta be careful when you spray your crops for the bad insects that the bees are not present. So whenever we spray for insects, we gotta make sure the bees are not out pollinating the crops.
Okay. Okay. Are there other beneficial insects besides bees? And if that, do any project against harmful ones?
Okay, there's like ladybugs. You seen ladybugs? Ladybugs are a beneficial insect because they like to eat aphids. And aphids are a pest that will often stick their stylus into a plant and suck out the juices, and then also sometimes inject like a disease. And so ladybugs are beneficial that help control some of those insects. There's several other insects that are been like a lacewing beetle, or lacewing. This is a beetle. It's a beneficial as well too. It will help attack some of the other insects. There's like a stinging wasp that will actually attack some worms. So there's a lot of different beneficial insects out there. And so as long as your beneficial population is high, you don't have to spray as much for the non or for the harmful insects.
Okay. If there anything else that is
Important.
important to know about bees and know their effect on your crops?
One of the most important things to know about bees, especially for kids in your class, is that to know that bees do not want to attack people. Because when a bee stings a person, its life's over. It'll only live about maybe an hour and then it dies. So bees really don't want to attack people. And so if you see a bee, you don't necessarily want to try to spray it or kill it. You can call a beekeeper if you've got like a big swarm. A lot of times people have swarms come into their homes or out in their yard. And so they can always call a beekeeper to come get the bees. And they'll come get them. And you don't want to try to spray them and kill them. You want to just try to remove them if you possibly can. And so it's not only just because I raise bees, they may go to my neighbors and help pollinate their crops too. So just like bees may come onto my farm, my bees often leave and go to other people's farms too to help pollinate their crops and their flowers and everything else.
Okay.
Okay?
I have a question. What's the greatest factor affecting bees' population today? And how big a factor is that?
Well, there's a lot of different things that are going on. A lot of it is there's the varroa mite is by far the worst, the biggest thing attacking bees. You hear a lot about colony collapse disorder. A lot of that is caused by varroa mites, and so some of it is just management of hives. There's another disease that they've discovered that's attacking bees as well. So there's some disease pathogens that can attack bees as well too. And some of it is just people's lack of knowledge of how to treat bees when they find bees. Like swarms. Swarms are a natural way for bees to repopulate, and a lot of people don't know what to do with them. And so a lot of homeowners that are unaware will spray them and kill them instead of trying to find another place for them.
What kind of crops do you grow here?
We've got corn and soybeans, wheat, and then of course the pumpkins and gourds, squash. Those are the main ones.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're sure welcome.
Very good information.